Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, today, in pursuance of my constitutional duty, I sent to the Congress a message on the State of the Union. And this evening I am taking the opportunity to repeat to you some parts of that message. This war must be waged, it is being waged, with the greatest and most persistent intensity. Everything we are, everything we have is at stake. Everything we are and have will be given. We have no question of the ultimate victory. We have no question of the cost. Our losses will be heavy. But we and our allies will go on fighting together to ultimate total victory. We have seen a year marked on the whole by substantial progress toward victory, even though the year ended with a setback for our arms, when the Germans launched a ferocious counterattack into Luxembourg and Belgium with the obvious objectives of cutting our line in the center. Our men have fought with indescribable and unforgettable gallantry under most difficult conditions. The high tide of this German attack was reached 2 days after Christmas. Since then, we have reassumed the offensive. We have rescued the isolated garrison at Bastogne and forced the German withdrawal along most of the line of the salient. The speed with which we have recovered from this savage attack was possible primarily because we have one supreme commander in complete control of all the Allied armies in France. General Eisenhower has faced this period of trial with admirable calm and resolution and is steadily increasing success. He has my complete confidence. Further desperate attempts may well be made, and are being made, to break our line, to slow our progress. We must never make the mistake of assuming that the Germans are beaten until the last Nazi has surrendered. And I would express a most serious warning against the poisonous effects of enemy propaganda. The wedge that the Germans attempted to drive in Western Europe was less dangerous in terms of winning the war than the wedges which they are continually attempting to drive between ourselves and our allies. Every little rumor which is intended to weaken our faith in our allies is like an actual enemy agent in our midst, seeking to sabotage our war effort. There are, here and there, evil and baseless rumors against the Russians, rumors against the British, rumors against our own American commanders in the field. And when you examine these rumors closely, you will observe that every one of them bears the same trademark, made in Germany. We must resist this propaganda. We must destroy it with the same strength and the same determination that our fighting men are displaying as they resist and destroy the Panzer Division. In all of the far-flung operations of our own armed forces, on land, on sea, and in the air, the final job, the toughest job, has been performed by the average, easy-going, hard-fighting young American who carries the weight of battle on his own shoulders. It is to him that we and all future generations of Americans must pay grateful tribute. But it is of small satisfaction to him to know that monuments will be raised to him in the future. He wants and he needs, and he is entitled to insist upon our full and active support now.
World News Today, brought to you by Admiral Corporation, in behalf of Admiral distributors and dealers all over America and in many foreign lands. By shortwave broadcast direct from important overseas stations and leading news centers in our own country, CBS reporters are waiting to bring you first-hand news from the world's political and vantage points. Now, here's Douglas Edwards. The American First Army has gained 3 miles along the northern flank of the Belgian Bulge
and has cut one of the two main roads supplying the Germans on that front. To the south, the enemy is increasing pressure on the American 7th Army. A large force of Allied bombers based in Britain attacked German communications today. The Russians say they hold about 2/5 of Budapest. And in the Pacific, the Japanese say Allied warships are shelling the coast of Luzon and that a strong convoy has entered Lingayen Gulf. Observers at Pearl Harbor are awaiting news of possible further American blows in the Pacific. And now, news from Supreme Allied Headquarters. Admiral takes you direct to Paris. Charles Collingwood reporting.
The most dramatic events on the Western Front are now occurring along the Rhine in Alsace. In this section of Europe, which has for so long been disputed by both France and Germany, questions of prestige and tradition count for quite as much as strategic considerations. The Germans have come across the Rhine in a spectacular fashion to establish themselves a few miles north of Strasbourg, and the whole French nation has its eye on that corner of the front. In the Ardennes salient, where a much larger and more significant action is taking place, we have advanced in the north to cut the main east-west road in the northern half of the salient. This is Charles Collingwood in Paris, returning you to Admiral in New York.
That was a broadcast by Charles Collingwood, direct from Supreme Allied Headquarters.
My own outfit was presented with a captured German flag by the infantry. And let me tell you, that really is a prized possession. It meant an awful lot to the pilots. I remember one day we were sent up to knock out some enemy strong points. The soldiers had been held up by German mortars and heavy machine guns. As we were flying back, we saw the GIs standing in the road waving their arms and yelling. It's things like that that make our work so satisfying.
I imagine one of the big problems was getting infantry and the Air Corps people to understand each other's problems. How did you work that out?
We sent pilots up to the front, to the foxholes, to find out how these boys lived. And we had some of the infantry people come over and see our show. We regularly send pilots down to the ground to act as liaison and assistants to the infantry people. They ride up front with the tanks. When these pilots come back, they're full of the grand way to foot soldiers do things. I think we now have real comradeship in arms. It's been worth it to know that you are helping the infantry, and we are now going to work together all the way to Berlin.
Thank you, Colonel Wurtenbaker. I return you to New York. Now, here's Douglas Edwards. Allied armies are hammering the German salient in Belgium from 3 directions today, and the 3rd American Armored Division has cut the Nazis' last escape road. 3 strong enemy counterattacks in the area have been thrown back. In the air, at least 124 German planes were shot down today when the Luftwaffe came up to attack a strong American bomber fighter formation, at least 1,700 planes. The American planes flew in to bomb vital fuel refineries in north-central Germany. The Russian press is describing the Soviet winter offensive as the greatest blow yet struck by the Allies. Strasser says that the Battle of Budapest alone is of greater magnitude and fierceness than anything that has yet taken place on the Western Front. In Italy, the Germans have set up a new winter defense line, bolstered by a new division and with an abundance of supplies. And now, news radio direct from Supreme Allied Headquarters. Admiral takes you to Paris, Charles Collingwood reporting.
As the German armies continue to retreat from the Ardennes salient, American troops have moved down from the north to cut the last main road leading out from the area the Germans are evacuating. This is the road from Houffalize to Saint-Vith, and we have cut it only 4 miles from the great road net of Houffalize itself. Of course, there are other minor roads leading out of the neck of the salient, but in the slippery, icy weather that prevails now, they will not support the traffic of the big road. Now is the critical time of the German retreat. Up until now, he's been able to move out in his own good time, and we've taken little toll of his retreating forces. But now we are narrowing in upon the Germans. We have cut their one good road. And after a week of snow and fog, the weather has providentially cleared, and all the air forces on the Western Front are up. Today looks like the day the air forces have been waiting for. The reports have only just started to come in, but up until noon today, the 9th Air Force alone had destroyed 170 motor vehicles and 3 armored vehicles in the salient, and that is only the beginning. The German salient is withering like a winter's leaf, and the next few days are the ones in which we may be able to turn it to our advantage. There is still a chance. But all the predictions made at the beginning of the breakthrough about how what looked like a German success may turn out to have been a German blunder, there is still a chance, although one says this cautiously, that they may have been right. The toll of dead and prisoners and equipment destroyed since the beginning is already very high. The enemy is now giving up most of the ground he won, and before it is all over, it may turn out that we have hurt him worse than he hurt us. This is Charles Collingwood in Paris, returning you to Admiral in New York.
From Charles Collingwood, news of the Western Front. And now for an interview with Congressman Outland of California, who is in Britain. Admiral takes you to CBS London. Larry Lasser reporting.
With the skies clear over the Western Front today, the Allied Air Forces at last got a chance to help the Allied soldiers hustle the Germans out of the stadium.